So this Advent, I've been catching up on some Christmas films that I haven't seen before. I personally love Christmas films. I love Christmas in general, so even mediocre Christmas films put a big smile on my face. Which is good because most Christmas films are mediocre if we're being honest. They're emotionally manipulative, full of dumb contrivances, and tend to be quite predictable. And on that note, Jingle All the Way is a Christmas film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Put that cookie down!
As a dad who spends more time focusing on his work than he does on his family, at the cost of his relationship with his son. The film thus takes the form of an atonement story, where he has to purchase a Turbo Man action figure for his son, which is a task complicated by this toy being so popular that it's sold out everywhere Arnie goes. In addition to this atonement element to Arnie's character arc, there's also a want versus need dimension. Arnie wants the toy in order to win his son over, but he needs to learn that what matters is being an emotionally present and attentive father to his son and husband to his wife. It's pretty predictable that this is the direction the film is heading throughout, for the record. If I were to give this film a rating, it'd probably be a low 6 out of 10, which is actually quite a bit better than your typical Christmas film. So if you're as serious about Christmas media as I am, then you'll probably watch this film and thoroughly enjoy it. However, what's interesting to me is how with just 2 small changes, I think this film could have been significantly better. For those who are a fan of my Star Wars rewrites, I bet this wasn't the next film you thought I'd be reworking. So I'm going to start with the less important change first, because I want to end on the more important point for structural reasons. Sinbad stars in this film as a father who is also trying to get hold of a Turbo Man action figure. At first he offers to work with Arnie, but Arnie isn't receptive to this, and their competition in trying to secure a Turbo Man adds a bit of complexity to the plot. Overall, the presence of this character is pretty fun, and the film would be emptier without him. However, by the end of the film, Arnie ends up dressed as Turbo Man in the Christmas parade. Sinbad then shows up dressed as Turbo Man's nemesis, and they have a big fight for a final piece of climactic action. Here's my issue. Sinbad isn't actually presented as a villain at any other point, so it makes very little sense that he becomes one right at the end, to the point of child endangerment, by the way. So here's the quick and easy solution. Have Arnie be receptive to working with Sinbad initially, and have the two mostly be working together. Then, at around the second act point, have them almost about to get a Turbo Man, and then have Sinbad betray Arnie so he can have the toy for himself. This way, Sinbad has undergone a villainous turn to set up him appearing at the end as the final villain. But he would still remain sympathetic enough to justify the final twist, where Arnie's son gives up his Turbo Man for Sinbad, so Sinbad's kids can have a Merry Christmas too. Side note, the way that Arnie's kid ends up getting a Turbo Man doesn't really make sense when you think about it. The idea is that one of the kids watching the parade will get a free Turbo Man toy, which is very convenient for Arnie, who is trying to get a Turbo Man toy. However, Turbo Man is also a toy that sold incredibly well because a lot of parents have bought a Turbo Man toy for their kids. So imagine how annoyed you'd be as a parent if you got this toy for your kid, and then literally the day before Christmas, they get that exact same toy at the Christmas parade. Your kid wakes up on Christmas Day, opens the toy they've been most excited about getting, and is just like, oh, okay, I already got one of these at the parade. So yeah, this contrivance where kids receive a Turbo Man toy works well for Arnie's plot, but really doesn't make sense in universe. But these are my more minor criticisms. My biggest issue relates to Arnie's atonement arc in general. So Arnie's climactic moment of atonement comes when he appears as Turbo Man for the Christmas parade. This is why he is able to pick out his son to give him a Turbo Man toy, it's why he's able to fight Sinbad and rescue his son from him, and it's what motivates his son to favourably compare him to Turbo Man. Now, guess what? Arnie doesn't choose to dress up as Turbo Man or stand in for Turbo Man in the parade. Instead, Arnie is running away from a recurring cop character who wants to arrest him, whereupon he entirely accidentally stumbles backstage of the parade where he discovers that the person who was supposed to play Turbo Man has been injured and everybody just assumes he's the replacement. He is literally bundled into the suit while trying to protest. These are the kinds of rookie filmmaking errors that I can't countenance in my family Christmas movies. It completely undercuts Arnie's redemption and atonement when the climax of his arc isn't as a result of his own choices. At this point, I probably don't need to tell you what the solution is. Just make it Arnie's choice. However, I'll get a bit more specific with it. Early on in the film, when Arnie is starting to realize that presents aren't the most important thing, he reminisces about building a playhouse for his son that his son really enjoyed. Obviously, this present would have come from the heart and had more thought put into it than just buying something from a store. Makes sense, especially since Arnie's whole problem is he spends too much time at work, so of course he can afford to buy his son whatever he wants. Him buying something for his son wouldn't mean anything really. Anyway, when he's at his lowest point, he goes to the playhouse he built for his son, and you would think this is clearly setting up him realizing he needs to build something. So my solution is just have this film go where it obviously seems like it should be going. Have Arnie build his own Turbo Man suit. This way, when he shows up at the parade, it makes sense that somebody would assume he's the replacement Turbo Man, and then he could actively choose to go along with it. And there, now Arnie is an active participant in his own redemption. Not hard. Anyway, sorry this video wasn't out in time for Christmas, but in fairness, I only watched it in the lead up to Christmas, and then I was busy around Christmas time for obvious reasons. Funnily enough, between starting and finishing this script, I did end up watching the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Junior, but I don't have any improvements to suggest for that movie because it's perfect. The good news is I'm hoping to get this out before January 5th, which is the 12th and last day of Christmas. So assuming I've managed that goal, please like and subscribe and comment as you see fit, and a very Merry Christmas.